Hello and welcome to Skits and Quibbles, the Arts and Wellness Show. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Thomas W. Kelly, your host for this evening. And thank you. I know what you're thinking. This guy doesn't know the price of milk, but he knows the price of therapy. But actually, I'm lactose intolerant, and the NHS want their office chairs back. And tonight, I'm really excited, actually, to take you on an adventure, because we're going to be having some international and UK star comedians, and also a celebrity from the health and wellness scene. It's going to be so fun. So thank you again for joining us all across America and Europe as we stream on E360 TV. So yeah, a little bit about myself. I'm an English, queer, Australian, which basically means that I positively hate myself, but I'm better than you. In a relaxed way? Yeah, mate, be relaxed about that self-doubt inside. So I actually grew up in quite a rough neighbourhood in Perth, West Australia. If you've seen Mad Max, Tuesday morning. Homophobia, that's a flavour of barbecue sauce. Yeah, ironically, smeared on sangers everywhere. Oh, what's you want on your bum there? You want a sanger? Nah, just some existential dread, thanks. So yeah, when I grew up in the 90s, we actually thought that bisexuals were a computer virus. Dangerous, unpredictable, quite sticky on the keyboard. And, we actually thought that there's only two kinds of men where I come from. The first one smells like cigarettes, mangoes, existential dread. And the second type, there's just one type. Okay. Okay. As a matter of fact, oi, you! I'm Bingo Bruce. What are you wearing? Oh no, not questions. The only weakness for queers.
You look like a circus performer gave birth to a roll of wallpaper.
You like what you see, cowboy?
Want to know what we do to people like you where I'm from? Woo!
I'm hearing you, but would you like a banana?
A banana?
So how is your relationship with your mother?
Are you some kind of tree-hugging, lily-milk-loving, Satan's ball-licking, some kind of homo sapien, God-fearing...
Yes. How's your daddy? Oh yeah, that's what I thought. Let's get on with the show. Well, for the first comedian tonight, I've got a recipe for you. How do you make a comedian? Well, it takes half a cup of English, half a cup of Spanish, just a little sprinkle of storytelling, and you've got a Dominic Burrell. Please welcome to stage, Dominic.
Hello, my name is Dominic Burrell. I'm half Spanish, half English. My mum's from a tiny little Spanish village in a place called Cuenca, and I had no idea until recently that Cuenca is actually the Spanish euphemism for doggy style. My dad met my mum on a lad's holiday in Tenerife, and they hit it off immediately because he's also from a tiny little village near London called Reverse Cowgirl-on-Thames. I wouldn't recommend it. No one there sees eye to eye. I now live in Germany, and I love being there. My favourite thing about it is the stereotypes that they have for British people. So firstly, they think we're polite and charming, and you start to believe it, actually, until I arrived back in London and noticed that on the trains we've had to start putting up posters to remind us that it's not okay to punch the conductors. But my favourite stereotype is that back in Germany, people say that I sound really sexy. Which is rad, because here my friends say that I've got the voice of someone who would leave comments on Pornhub videos. Maybe that's what the Germans mean. They are very literal. I'm really excited about spending the summer in Germany. I've got my summer look. I remember back at school reading a history book that said that Germans love blonde hair and blue eyes. So I went for this. And Actually, someone yesterday told me that I look like Ken if he'd left Barbie to join the Taliban. Which I prefer the term, actually, vanilla ISIS, really. But I'm really excited. We've got the Euros in Germany, the big football championships, and I'm a huge football fan. Actually, I can't wait for the Germans to see what the British people are really like. There was an article on the BBC warning British tourists going over to Germany for the championships that the beer in Germany is a lot stronger, so they need to watch out. And I think that's a weird warning because my mate Big Steve, after the pubs are closed, saw how much alcohol was in hand sanitizer and tried to do a shot of it. I'm really excited because I'm really into football. I used to go on TV to talk about it until the production company asked me for a bit of a favour. They had a phone-in show where people would video call in and talk about their football clubs based in North America. And just as I was about to go on the show, the producer spoke to me, and he said that because only people who live in North America are allowed to appear on the show, that I had to pretend that I was from Winnipeg, Canada. In Canada, it's still daylight, it's minus 10 degrees, so put a hoodie on. And I started to feel uncomfortable, so I interrupted him as he was halfway through listing Canada's top 10 exports. And I was like, I mean, I've never even practiced a Canadian accent. I don't think I can fool people into this. And he was like, it's absolutely fine. There's lots of expats who phone into the show from all over the world who now reside in North America, so any accent will do. So I went for Jamaican, and hear me now. It did not go well. Turns out I can do a Jamaican accent either, and they never called me back. And I swore I would never do a Jamaican accent again on the TV, but here I am now. So I've been back in London for 10 days, and I've been staying with my parents. So 10 days back with them is a bit too long. Actually, I feel a bit bad saying that because they really enjoy having me over. I think it's because I'm an only child, and it's their one chance to spend one-on-one quality time with their IT support. I mean, when I'm home, they're both lined up outside my bedroom door. My dad can't get into his emails. My mum can't set the clocks in the kitchen. Neither of them can watch films because the DVD player's plugged into the lava lamp. It's absolute madness. And it was actually really cute because yesterday I was helping my mum with something on her computer, and I noticed that the number one thing that she's searched for on Google is Google. I can't wait to go back to see my partner again. I married a real-life human woman last year. Thank you very much. So sorry, any ladies watching at home, to disappoint you. Can't be your gay best friend. But I think we've been together now for 8.5 years, and it's going really well. And I think the secret to that is that we didn't meet online or on a dating app. We met the traditional way at an orgy. Well, it wasn't technically an orgy, but it was a singles night with unlimited drink the night before Valentine's Day. Okay, you could cut the sexual desperation with a knife. Even I was going to get lucky. The only way I can describe it is that when we tried to upload the videos we'd taken the next day, they got immediately taken down for being too explicit for Pornhub, which is a shame because I'd left some really great comments.
Oh, welcome to set.
Hey, lovely to see you, Thomas.
Ah, that was amazing. I love your set. So you've been moving to Germany in Dusseldorf.
Yes.
Yeah. So how have you found the transition from like English to German humour? Do you find yourself getting in any mistakes, or do the jokes translate?
I think, for the most part, so the stereotype about Germans not having any humour, I think, is 100% accurate. No, I think they are actually, more and more, they're becoming very much like the English. I think there's not a huge amount of differences. The only thing is they are still, like, very literal, and I think it comes from, for example, their language. So I find it hilarious. I love studying it. For example, gloves in German are literally hand shoes.
Oh,
A skunk is a stink animal.
okay.
And a queue, what is a queue? A queue is a waiting snake. So they have all these like very literal things.
So you're the founder of this beautiful stand-up comedy club, and you've been producing many shows. And as a producer myself, I know that there are moments of pressure when you start to need to push through and really like count your good eggs, rely on your happy visions to push through those stressful times. Has there ever been a time in your comedy club when you're like, I'm doubting this business, and how did you push through that moment?
Every day, I think. I take everything really personally. Like if the night hasn't gone well, I blame myself for it, and that can be quite tough. And in terms of ticket sales, we normally sell tickets kind of on the day or the day before. Yeah. So every show, I'm thinking this is the end. This is where everyone stops buying tickets, and that pressure can be quite big. But I've got a really amazing team behind me.
Great.
They help run the shows while I'm in Germany. They're all the loveliest people I've met, and I think everyone really likes them on the circuit as well, so that helps. And I think without them, there's no way I could do it, just for the emotional support more than the
100%.
the actual work. Yeah.
Oh, mate, 2 days before, the ticket brain rot is real.
Absolutely, absolutely. But a problem shared with 5 other people makes it a lot nicer.
100%. So you're talking about considering to put the business in the bin, which you would never do because it's fantastic. If you did ever meet Slim Shady in a bin, or should I say if or when, what would you ask him?
Slim Shady in a bin? I'll probably ask him what his name is a few times.
For context, it used to be your opener joke, right?
It did. I had a lot shorter hair, buzz cut, and I did look like Eminem climbing out the recycling bin.
Yeah. So. Well, what is his name? It's Dominic Burrell. It's been such a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Well, next up, we've got someone who's not only loved in the Southern Hemisphere as a multi-award-winning comic, but also here in the UK with his recent tour in May and June. He's also the creator of Insane in the Membrane podcast, which is also award-winning. Wow, but you know what? He's a bit of a lush. Please welcome Rich Wilson.
So here we are. Hello. Good to see you. My name's Rich. Good to see you. I love the way we've got comedy written across the wall there, just in case I say some stuff that you don't find funny. It's just to remind you of where we're at. Yes, I am Rich, and I'm Gen X, Generation X. I'm not sure if I'm part of the solution or part of the problem. Probably a bit of both, to be honest. And I'm often described as a geezer. So you're a bit of a geezer. And I do sound like a bit of a geezer, but I'm not actually like that. I did this. I created this because I grew up with lads and geezers, so I didn't want to get my head punched in. So I assimilated to it in order to survive. And the fact that I use the word assimilated separates me somewhat from the lads and geezers. And the first question I'm always asked by other lads and geezers, what is your team? When they talk about soccer or football, depending on where you are in the world. What is your team? And that's how a lot of men will kind of, that's how a lot of men will communicate with each other. That's the only level they can kind of figure out. And as I was growing up, I went with it, and I would say, Palace. Now, for those of you in the UK, you'll know that Palace is short for Crystal Palace. And to shorten it to Palace makes it sound like I know what I'm talking about. It's just. And now I'm older. Now I'm in my 50s. I realise now that I don't have to pretend anymore. It's a lovely place to be. So when I'm asked what's your team, and I say I don't actually follow football. In fact, I find it grotesque, to be honest. They look at me like I've said, "Would you like to hum on my genitals?" They can't get their heads around it, really. I've just had a baby as well, which is yeah. Thank you very much. And I know you're looking at me. And there was a bloke the other day at a gig, and I said those very words, and I said I've just had a baby, and a voice from the back just went, "Looking well." So I'm assuming that goes down eventually. I'm sure that'll go down. Post a baby chub. And listen, I'm as surprised as you are. I genuinely didn't think I'd have any swimmers left at this age. I thought by now they'd just be heads without tails, just spinning around and around. I'm not sure how clean or dirty I'm supposed to be. Comedy, don't forget comedy. Read the words on the. I don't know. I met my wife a couple of years ago, and then when we met, and we were like 3 dates in. Third date, I knew it was coming as well. The question of like babies and things like that, and she was like, "Look, I'm a little bit younger than you," and I'm like, and when I say that, like, I'm not Jerry Lee Lewis, I'm not Elvis. Like, she's of age. It's completely legal. Don't be weird, all right? She, not in a weird up the part way. This was her decision to get involved with this funky Captain Birdseye fella. It's like coked up Santa. Don't do drugs, kids. Or do them all. Do everything. They're really good fun. They are really good fun. Putin's about to kill us all, so you really must get involved. Do them all. Do them all. You'll have a really good fun time. I don't do them now. I just run up the stairs really fast. If I bend down and tie my shoe, if I get up really quickly, I will lose an afternoon, honestly. So we met, my wife and I, and we were chatting, and she says, "Look, I know you've already had kids yourself, but I haven't, and I might not be able to have them. I might not necessarily want them, but I don't know. I just want the option to be on the table. Like, what do you think?" And I was like, "Yeah." I went, "Yeah, fine. Yeah." I'm thinking, there's no way. There's absolutely no way. I'm middle class as well, which is a thing in the UK. Very big on class over here, and my wife's very, very middle class, to the point she's sort of upper class almost. She comes from a family whose great, I'm not sure how far back it goes, but his name was Titus Salt. And Titus Salt built the town of Saltaire, which is a mill town between Leeds and Bradford. So he had the mill, he was a mill owner, and for the workers he built an entire town, houses, shops, for the entire town. And so when you go to the church that's there, on the family tree, my wife's name is there on the family tree in the church. Amazing, yeah. Mine's there now, scratched in with a key. I'm joining. But now, because she's middle class, and now we're married, I'm now middle class by proxy. That's how that works. And certain things I've noticed that when you're middle class, there's a couple of things you have to do. Like when you go and buy a coffee and they tell you how much, you're not allowed to flinch. You have to act like it's normal. It's like £4. Reasonable. Thank you. I'll have a £15 sandwich as well while I'm here. I'm middle class, don't you know? But it turns out that my seamen, very working class still, and they did not muck about. First go, they just came flying down the ramp. Is that the egg? Have that yet? And so we've got a little baby called Bodhi. And I want to say that he's named after the tree that Buddha did his teachings from beneath, the Bodhi tree. And the day that we brought him home from hospital was actually Bodhi Day in the Buddhist calendar. Completely by chance. We didn't plan that. It just completely happened. And that's what I want to say. But he's actually named after Patrick Swayze in Point Break. I don't know if anyone in the room has seen the film. You've seen the film? Yeah, what a film. It's of its time. It's very sort of late 80s, early 90s. And, it's one of the best films ever made and one of the worst. But it's a fantastic... And so, yeah, Patrick Swayze. And to get on this, so my eldest son, who's 32 years old now, it's called Keanu. So I've got on both, which is... I played the long game. I'm really glad that Keanu Reeves turned out to be a hero and not a sex offender. Because the famous people do tend to have a penchant for doing that, don't they? You start off loving them and then later on, I'm a massive wrong un. You've ruined my entire DVD collection. Thank you for that. Thank you very much. So, being an older fella as well, I like being where I'm at now. People tend to sort of leave you alone. They ask you, they think you know stuff as well, like they ask you advice. You can say whatever you like. You can say anything. They go, "Oh, yeah, that sounds about right. You're 52. Absolutely. Also, if you ever have to deal with the police at this age, when they pull you over, you can just tell them to go away. It's amazing. Like they pull up and they go, and I'm like, no, mate, go and get your dad. and then we'll have a chat. But I'm not dealing with you, you juvenile. This happened as well the other day. So I was talking to my new baby. He's only 6 months old, and he was in front of me, and he was lying on the mat. And he's gurgling and smiling and laughing, having a lovely time. I was looking at him and going, look at you, you little smasher. You're amazing. I wonder what you're going to grow up to be. I wonder what you're going to be into. He just grabbed his feet, and he just rolled away. Now, wouldn't that be amazing to be able to do that as a grown-up? Imagine, just talking to someone and go, you're boring the arse off me, and just grab your feet and just roll away. Don't forget, comedy. You've been amazing. I've been Rich Wilson. Take care. Goodbye. Thank you so much. You look amazing.
Thank you.
This is a beautiful, beautiful ensemble.
Oh, yes. I love your cravat, by the way.
Thank you. Do you know what? It makes all the difference. Just a scarf or a cravat. Just change. You don't realise that underneath this, it's just a T-shirt and pants.
That's it.
It just makes a difference, yeah. But you look wonderful, like the moustache is working. What a beautiful set of moustaches. And this is the thing, having grown up in the 70s and the 80s, like with somebody that's dressed in this way, a lot of men would feel challenged because it's a bold choice, but they really would like to be more you. But because of that, they feel they can't, so because of that they get defensive.
Oh yeah, there's like a double thing.
Yeah, so they're kind of like they're having a go at themselves and you at the same time, and really it's because they admire you and what you're doing. I mean, you look wonderful. Your eyes are to die for.
Thank you.
I genuinely
where are those
wish. Yeah. Shall we?
Yeah.
Hey, let's do this for the the OnlyFans version. But sorry, I do apologise. I've dominated the conversation already.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I love blushing. It's good for the skin.
It is good for the skin. I just like to. I think as an older dude, I think it's important to be able to express yourself and tell someone when they look nice or they smell nice. I'm big on smells. Yeah. Yeah, if someone smells like I'm like, dude, what's that?
Yeah.
You know, it'll make and you'll make their day as well. It's fascinating.
I mean, on that note of like, masculinity, complimenting people, and one of the things I really like about watching your comedy sets when I've seen your videos is that you pull the piss in a semi-respectful way of the geezers of this world. I remember in one set you mentioned a group of your friends in a pub, and they were commenting about like the toilet being changed to transgender, and then they go in there, and he's like, "Well, I'm going to clock them."
Yeah,
love that. Yeah. But like, were you always so free and easy with talking about like masculinity and its limits in your comedy set, or was there a point where it shifted for you?
I think when I think back to what it was like when I was a kid, I went to an all-boys secondary school, and I've talked about this on the podcast as well. Because everybody was getting bullied, we were all like, I was getting bullied, so then I'd bully someone, and so if anyone showed any sort of sign of any kind of weakness, for want of a better word, they would just get it because you were getting it, and you needed a way to release
to remove the pressure from themselves.
Yeah. And so because it was an all boys school, so when I think back now, there were a couple of guys that were. Now I think about it, I'm like, oh yeah, they were clearly gay, or they were bisexual, or they were even trans. Even I think there was one particular person that has now transitioned. When I think back and the amount of abuse that they got, and it was all in their defence, you kind of you learn from that. You go, oh man, that must have been horrible for them. Yeah. And so going forward, because of that, you've got to own that. Look, none of us were perfect. But it came from a place of, like I say, insecurity. And then going forward, I think when I started off in comedy, I did have a trans joke that wasn't necessarily anti-trans, but it wasn't complimentary. It was like mocking it, that kind of, so mocking the whole thing. So I didn't really understand it when I was growing up. It was just seen that they'd always have that sort of thing. Oh, they were born in the wrong body. That was it. It wasn't like there was no grey area. It was just that person is a man, but they want to be a woman, and then it was kind of seen as funny in a way, and so there was a lot of that. And so the joke I had years ago, 10, 15 years ago, and then it wasn't until later on having discussions with people on the podcast and then talking to them about what they've been through and how it feels to actually be trans, or how it feels to be gay, or how it feels to go, yeah. there's so much going on that the last thing they need is to have somebody like me mocking that, even if it is meant as a joke. It's not the one. It's not the way, and you can't. So from that day forward, it was like, yeah, I want to support people and be more understanding of people, and I greatly admire people like Lee Bowery and people like that were just so out there.
Yeah.
I'm like, I missed out on so much.
Like a shining beacon for the rest of us, isn't it?
I genuinely wish I'd been more open. And so if anyone takes anything away from the podcast, it's like, don't worry about what society tells you. Be more you. Listen to that little voice. It's that if you want to wear that, wear that. If you want to do that, do that. Genuinely, that's my one regret in life. I wish I'd been more open to that and listened to that little voice. Because as it is, I just look and sound like a bus driver. And it really upsets me. I want to wear hats.
Well, you sound like the bus driver from the Lush Zone.
Yeah. Beep, beep.
Rich, it's been such a pleasure to have you on set and to have a chat with you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Well, I'm really happy to welcome an award-winning comedian who's headlined in over 25 countries. That's right, and he's from the Southern Hemisphere, like myself. From Singapore, let's welcome on Sam C.
Hi, gang. Yes, it is I, Bodhi, Rich Wilson's son. His sperm is so old, I came out of the womb looking like this. Hello, my name is Sam C. It's nice to be in this basement doing comedy for y'all. As you can see, I am the token minority of the evening. Yeah, that's how you get funding! I come all the way from Singapore, and for the Americans that are watching, hi! That's a part of the world you've never been to. You went slightly north and you lost. But we're a country in Southeast Asia, tiny little island, banking country with one of the world's highest GDPs, but no human rights and a totalitarian government. Basically, we are Switzerland, but evil. We are a socialist democracy. Just to help the Brits in the audience, we're kind of like a bit of a Jeremy Corbyn dream. But we are also a tax haven for the rich, a bit of a Rishi Sunak dream. Also, we do have a very famous brothel or bordello in Singapore called the 4 Floors of Whores. Bit of a Boris Johnson dream. Yeah. And we are very strict in the country. We're the only country in the world to ban chewing gum, vape pens, and until last year, gay sex. Now, there's a very easy joke about them banning anything I like to blow, but it's a cheap joke, and cheap jokes are like sex. I should get paid better for both. Yeah. Of course I'm gay. I'm wearing a bow tie. Only three kinds of people wear bow ties: gay guys, scientists, and American Republicans. And only 2 of us like anal. And only 1 of us knows how to pull out. Yes, I know the irony of a millennial doing a Bush-era joke dressed in the 1920s in 2024. I'm a freaking time traveler. So the reason I'm here is because as of about 50 plus days ago, I have moved to the UK because I make bad life decisions. Yes, moved all the way here to be in a studio with 5 people. And you think that's bad? That's good. Because I escaped from far worse. Singapore, I was part of Singapore's first ever comedy panel show. First one ever. And they went, hey, Sam, you guys are the first. So say whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Don't be afraid to be yourselves. So we got cancelled. We got cancelled because we made fun of our neighbors to the north, Malaysia. If you don't know much about Malaysia, they are very Muslim, very angry. And a few years ago, they had a government-backed list on how to spot a homosexual. Top 3 things on the list. Number 1, they like to wear tight clothing. Number 2, they like to go to the gym. And number 3, they like taking pictures at the gym with their clothes off. And I'm like, this is not a gay man. This is The Rock. So that's the kind of crazies we were dealing with. I made fun of their prime minister at the time. His name was Najib Razak. You know, the usual like, oh, your prime minister is a bit of a thief, taking money from the people, keeping it for himself. Bit of a thief. And we got into trouble for that because we were correct. So what happened was that he called my prime minister called the station called the producers called us. We had to grovel on air, make a formal apology to Malaysia, which means we are the only TV show in my country's history that has ever had to make a formal apology to a sovereign nation, which is impressive because no other comedian can brag about that. Because all these other dipshits are like, oh, I've had a Netflix special. Oh, I have 1 million followers. I'm like, oh yeah, I started an international incident. 2 world leaders know me by name for the worst reasons possible. Who needs to be on Netflix when you can be on your country's watch lists? That's what I mean by it wasn't as bad, because here's the thing. We filmed in a studio that was like 50 times the size of this, but with probably the same number of audience members. Unmiked. And they weren't people that wanted to be there. They were people that worked for the station. So these are people whose job is genuinely making government propaganda. Then they come to watch you and think you're worse. So to me, this is an absolute dream. It's really nice to like be in the UK. I'm trying to learn and understand it better. It's a beautiful place. Like the country here is like the weather. It's like a hateful fridge. The trains run as well as I do. And since I've come here as an immigrant, everyone has been so supportive. People have been offering me work like this. People have been offering me gigs. Someone even offered me a free flight to Rwanda. If you don't get that joke, read a book. If you don't know how to read a book, hello people from Montana. But the thing is that, it's kind of wild because a lot of people here are harsh on all these refugees, which is insane for me because most of these refugees are Asian as well. They are Afghans. So they've run away from their inept Asian leader with all the money, came here by boat, only to find an inept Asian leader with all the money. Wow, the studio audience did not like that one. I see we're a bunch of conservatives in the house. I could have noticed from the cravat. Only the conservatives wear, excuse me, this is a homosexual property, how dare you? I will wrap this up by sharing that I am currently attached, but I am still sexually available. I am in an open relationship, and what that means is that I can have my cake, eat it too, and then go next door for a donut. But, Krispy Kreme. And I'm very lucky to get my partner with me because I've been through a lot. And that's also another reason why I've been booked. I actually have been diagnosed with depression and anxiety, or as they call it, the surf and turf of mental illnesses. Which is horrible because when you have depression and anxiety, you're always anxious about being depressed, but you're too depressed to be anxious about it. And since I've been here, I'm kind of worried because I am tempted to get tested for autism because some people have told me, some experts told me I might have it along with, ADD, which I do not want because I already have depression and anxiety. I cannot collect them like fucking Pokemon. I am like the Thanos of mental illnesses. 4 gems and all I'm missing is being a furry. So... But here's the thing with me and my partner. I am 5'5". I really am this short. Not a joke. They had to zoom the camera in to keep me in frame. I'm literally in front of the camera right now. This is actual size, gang. But my partner, 6'6". Yeah, if they stood in the camera, you just see like tits. It's just, and this would be a much better show. Woo! Yeah, yeah. You know what it says? Green screen. But because of that, we have a lot of interesting dynamics. We don't have sex toys. We have a sex ladder. And And all my friends were asking, oh my God, Sam, who's the top, who's the bottom, who's the train, who's the tunnel? And then I'm like, it's less of a train and a tunnel, more of a skyscraper and window washer. Like in the bedroom for protection, I wear a condom and a parachute. So, but because of the, you know what? No, the last joke was too dirty and I care too much about you people to do it live on this show. So you gotta watch me live then. That's my set. Most comedians would end on a better high, but I'm not being paid enough to, and it's a true Asian. I'm not gonna work overtime for free. Bye, gang.
MC, welcome to the set.
Thank you for having me, my darling.
I really enjoyed your set. And I've been hearing some rave reviews about your previous show, which was called Government Approved Sex.
Yes.
But I've been checking your tour dates recently, and I've noticed that you've got a new show.
Yes, I do have a new show.
And you've been touring recently through Brighton.
Yes.
Would you tell us a little bit about it?
More than happy to. So the new show is called And I Can't Feel at Home in This World Anymore. Bit of a mouthful, you've heard that before. But basically, the show is about why I left Singapore and moved to the UK. And when I wrote it at the start, I was like, oh, I want to be, the traditional, let's do a travel show. But also, for years, I'm known for more gay stuff. Not for any other reason than if you are the only gay in the village and there's not a lot of representation, you have to be that for yourself. So I wanted to sort of challenge myself to be like, hey, let's do a show that's very straight stand-up. Let's not do any crowd work. Let's not rely too much on the innuendos, though they're so delightful. Oh no, my hymen. But the thing is that as I wrote it more, it actually became a show about positivity in the face of negativity. It's a show that comics that have come or performers resonate a lot with because it is a show where I basically am just going to go, yeah, and I failed here, and I failed in my career here, and I failed in my career here, and I failed in my career here. I'm still going. Why? So it's kind of like a show of, I guess, as they say, there's a fine line between bravery and stupidity, and I'm sort of like running in a circle on the floor on that line.
Oh, I want to see you cross that line.
Into stupidity?
Yeah.
Oh, watch me do crowd work. Oh, it's freaking stupid.
Well, I really admire how you do talk so openly about being gay, especially coming from a country like Singapore. I can't relate to it in quite the same way because it was at least legalized, I think, in the late 70s in Australia. But one of the things I really enjoy when you stand up comedy is that you talk about going to gay bars and how it helped you growing up to kind of find yourself. Do you find differences in the kind of the scenes internationally?
Yeah, it's somehow the more repressed it is in the country, the better the gay bar is.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh, if you go to, let's say, like a Malaysian gay bar, people are dancing. I went to was it the GAY bar in London? It's like the known one, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be fun. It was just kind of people just bobbing. The bobbing is like, and just doing like which one can I sleep with? And I was like, there was no fun. There was no like outward joy because when you have everything already, you don't really have a reason to celebrate. But when you have so much against you, you cherish every small moment. Yeah. Like my friends in Malaysia, they had like club nights where this year alone they get raided. The police come, they harass them. I have performed as an openly gay man in places like Brunei. I have seen the issues. So for me, when you travel, it's like
respect.
Gay bars are so important, and it's the joy that needs to be there, but also it's supporting. I think I don't think it's controversial of me to say this, but trans people going through a very hard time right now. A lot of gay men, especially a lot of cis gay men, are not supporting their trans siblings, and they got to do that. You got your rights. You got everything good. You got your crappy little flat. Now go support this person. Go give back to the community. Don't just like, no, I'm just going to wear a jockstrap on the float. No, donate. Don't just wave the flag. Donate. Do something. Support them.
And acknowledge in the street. Intervene.
Yes.
100%. So when you were young and in comparison to now, if you like zoom back in a kind of a time funnel, and just as a side note, I really respect how you talk about mental health in your comedy set, something I do as well, and I think it needs to be spoken about more. What advice would you give to young people now who are just finding themselves going out to venues, to like keep their mental health positive?
Oh, that's a very good question. Mental health is so different now because when you grew up and I grew up, and I think it was around the same era, we didn't have the internet. For better or for worse. I had a little bit of it growing up, and I had some resources. Now, the good thing is that they have so much resources, so much availability. They've got things in the US like the Trevor Project, where people can message and write to people standing by live to chat and discuss, and that's so useful. But on the other hand, they get exposed to so much hate and anger, and it's like, this is such a weird thing to say, but honestly, keeping off social media is healthy. I mean, I understand as someone whose my entire career is based on having social media.
Yeah.
It's an insane thing to say, but it's just taking those breaks from it. Like, make sure your algorithm is healthy. Like, stop going down the doom scroll. Find the cute animal pictures. Go play a dumb game. Baldur's Gate 3 is great. Go play that. That's 80 hours of your life you're never going to get back. But there's no one harassing you there. It's a good thing. Go read a book. Books, you know what those are, kids? Soft cover, hard cover.
I tried one, but I couldn't scroll through it.
No. I just like, whoa, oh shit, it's flu. Yeah, but I think honestly what kids need to do in the younger generation, not even kids, but the younger generation, have to be able to be disciplined enough to not stay on there for too long. It is a very dangerous place. And, find what you like. Now there's more resources to find your nerdier stuff, your more queer stuff. Go find your clan. Go find a place you feel at home in.
Great words of wisdom there. Samsi, it's been such a pleasure having you on set. Thank you for your insights, and thank you for your amazing comedy set.
You're very kind. Thank you, darling.
Ciao.
Yeah! Now let's start the orgy!
Well, this evening, I'm really happy to introduce our celebrity guest from the health and wellness scene. He is an award-winning author, an expert in the health and wellness industry, the creator of FreeMind, an award-winning app which helps you with music and meditation to create a better state of being for you. And here he is to deliver an inspirational talk, Tom Fortress-Mayer.
So I'm very pleased to be here, and I just wanted to share with you 3 of my favorite experiments in psychology that I reflect on all the time. And I think if you contemplate on them, they can teach you a huge amount about psychology and the crazy world we live in, and how we can kind of wend our way through the madness and stay at least marginally sane. So the first, which is current to the theme of bananas, which have turned up here tonight. So I'm excited. I was half tempted to get someone to waggle the bananas around, but you're just going to have to imagine. But it's an experiment done with gorillas where they created an enclosure, and in the middle of this enclosure there was a step ladder, and at the top of the ladder there was a bunch of bananas, and so they put, I don't know, 6 or 7 gorillas in there, and after a little while, one of them was like, "There's some bananas over there." And I think it's well known that the internal dialogue of gorillas is Cockney. That makes sense. I think that is obvious and well known. Indigenous to Bow. And anyway, so it's not long before one of them goes up the ladder. But as soon as they touch the bananas, this is a horrible experiment, but it's still fascinating. They had these jets in the enclosure, and they were all sprayed with cold water, hosed with cold water. And so, let's go, the bananas goes down, but they don't immediately make this connection between the bananas and the water, right? But then another one decides, I'm going to go and get those bananas, right? Goes up there, right? Anyway, touches the bananas, they're sprayed with water, they all go mental. It's like, oh, fuck these bananas. And so they leave it, right? They learn. You don't go near the bananas, mate. Right? Anyway. But then they bring in a new gorilla. New gorilla's like, all right. And they're like, all right. Hold on a minute. There's some bananas over there. And so the new guy decides he's going to go up the ladder, right? And the other gorillas go mental. They're just freaking out. Just don't do it. He's like, I'm going. Touches the bananas, they're all sprayed with water. He's like, all right, I didn't know. So they learn, and they get better at communicating. So after a while, another gorilla gets brought in, and they get better at freaking out, so they learn. They create a culture. You just don't go for the bananas. You just don't go for the bananas. But then what they did was one by one, they removed all of the gorillas that were ever sprayed with water. And after a while, there were gorillas in that enclosure that had never been sprayed with water, and no one went for the bananas. And that gives me pause for thought. You know, the tacit limitations of our culture, the tacit limitations of our family. What were you taught, almost osmotically, about money or marriage or love? These imprints have a massive impact, a massive impact. And questioning our assumptions and questioning the prejudice and the bias and the privilege, all these things that don't just affect how we relate to others, but it's how we believe what's possible. What aren't we reaching for? What aren't we grasping for? So another experiment, which I just find absolutely fascinating, is in self-fulfilling prophecies. And so this was done at the end of the 60s by two psychologists, Rosenthal and Jacobson. And they took a group of kids, I think they were around 12, and they had most of their lessons from one teacher in those kind of days. And what they did, they assessed those kids for their intelligence, their scholastic ability, their memory. They looked at their grades. And they took the teacher to one side, and they pointed out 3 kids that were bright, gifted, going to go a long way. Right? And then they studied how they did at the end of that year. Now, what's really interesting is those kids weren't selected from the gifted set. They were actually average. Weren't particularly bright, weren't particularly gifted, according to the systems which are limited that we assess intelligence. But at the end of the year, how do you think those kids did? They did better, right? They did better. But when they looked at why, because this teacher had like a gaggle of psychology. I don't know if gaggle is the collective noun for psychologists, but we'll go with that. A gaggle of psychologists kind of. And so they were careful not to favoritize these kids. Yeah, they were careful of that. But what the study kind of showed was a kind of what I would call implied expectations. So let's imagine one of those kids is called Johnny, right? So Johnny puts up his hand. He's having a problem with a maths problem, let's say. Everything from how that teacher moved towards little Johnny implied, you got this, you're bright, you're gifted, you're going to go a long way. And that went over. And that's what they approved, that expectation from the teacher, just the expectation alone carried with it a power. Now, this is one of those experiments that you don't really need to do. Like, you're all nodding, makes total sense, right? Yet, how does that impact how you are as a partner, or as a parent, or as a manager of people? What is your implied expectation with the people that you interact with? Now, that's interesting, but what's more interesting is what's your implied expectation with you, with yourself? Like, when you run into a problem, is your immediate sense that you're gifted, that you're bright, that you're going to go a long way? Because you all nodded. You all knew that if you were met with that belief, with that faith, that your grades would be better at the end of the year. And so this is worth reflecting on. Our internal dialogue, our internal narrative, what we believe, what we expect, what we imagine is possible. These have a massive impact on how we feel, how we think, how we behave. But the final experiment, which I think is just the most brilliant, was called the anti-clockwise experiment done by Ellen Langer in Harvard. And what she did was they took a bunch of 50-year-old men, and a bunch of 70-year-old men, and they trained them to remember what their life was like when they were 50. And they then, so they had to speak in the kind of, you know, they had to talk about their kids as though they were 20 years younger, right? They had to talk about their jobs that they had. They trained them to linguistically remember and articulate from that perspective of being 50 again. And then they put them in a ranch, which they'd redecorated as though it was 20 years prior. They pumped in old TV shows. They reprinted old newspapers. But before they went in there, they took loads of markers around aging, biological markers of aging, but also they took photographs of them. And what they proved after living for just 2 or 3 weeks as though they were 50, huge amounts of their biological, psychological, emotional markers, even from their photos. I think, if I can remember the details correctly, after just 3 weeks of pretending to be younger, they looked on average, people who are independent observers, in the after shots, they thought they were on average, they assessed them at being 3 years younger. This is incredible. Who we are, what we think we are, what we think we're capable of, the expectation we place on ourselves, the language we use. We have 60,000 thoughts a day, and 95% of those thoughts are the same thoughts we had the day before. All of these have a massive impact, but the most beautiful thing is all of these are changeable. How we relate to life and how life relates to us is a reflection of what we're thinking, what we're feeling, what we're believing, what we're expecting, and all of those can be changed. So I wish for you all to have an amazing time. I want to also thank all of these incredible comedians. They've been absolutely brilliant tonight. I've been Tom Ford as Mayor. Thank you.
Very, very enjoyable and enlightening. I didn't expect you, this is not an insult, to be so funny. But you actually really took me by shock, especially with the gorilla stuff. But you hit home on topics which I find personally fascinating and that have changed my life from neuro-linguistic programming point of view, particularly around limiting beliefs. So would you, for the audience, tell us a little bit about how do you know when you've come across a limiting belief, and what sort of attitude could you use to overcome it?
I mean, I think in the simplest terms, if your operating system is working, you feel expansive. And so for me, the better I get at this stuff and the more I understand it, I'm just focusing on alignment and expansion. If I'm feeling expanded, if I'm feeling heart opened, then my operating system is supporting who I want to be and how I want to live. You know you're operating with limiting beliefs if you feel contracted, you feel frustrated, and you're experiencing friction. Life is always reflecting your inner alignment.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. And how have other people come across a similar journey because of your contact with them as a business coach?
Well, I'm walking, living evidence that your life can be changed in an instant. I was looking for happiness in all the wrong places in all the wrong ways. I was having a great time as a hedonist. I still am a hedonist. I just got way better tools now. And my job is about helping people be happier. So yes, business coaching is part of it, but really I'm not talking about people's marketing strategy. It's all about their mindset. So when people get aligned, I work with business owners to be happier, because people think I'll chase success and then I'll be happy. Whereas I'm like, no, get happy and the success will follow.
Yes.
But for me, because my life was changed in one instant, I have been obsessed with epiphany. There's some key techniques, and so for my work, it's always teaching people like these main techniques that you can use yourself. My big passion is, yes, I like working with like wealthy people to help them be wealthier and be happier and enjoy their success. That pays really well. But that enables me to then work on this platform to help people learn these tools so they can do it for themselves.
And talking about one of those tools, I've been really enjoying listening to the power meditation from your free mind app, which I've been downloading on my iPhone. And but you know, like genuinely, I love the range of language that you use inside of there when you're giving that kind of direct meditation with this beautiful music that you've had composed for this. One of the things that came across very strongly to me when I listened to it was the way that you encouraged the listener to see that they have choices in their life and move towards a kind of a transformational experience. What is it about transformational experiences and you know, this thing of having choices that's so important?
Well, I'm fascinated by the fact that at any moment someone can read something or hear something and their life is irrevocably changed. Yeah. And ultimately, we all have that capacity to make a decision on any one day. You know, I'm not going to do that anymore. That habit that is holding me back, I'm just going to stop it. Sometimes it's not that easy. Sometimes it's way more complex, dropping something that's holding you back. But on other days and in other times, it can literally just be a series of even just microscopic choices that are just that little bit more incrementally self-loving or self-caring or authentic. And it you know, whether it's a big transformation in one moment, which I know happens, I facilitate those for people all the time. But also, it can sometimes just be, that just daily incremental. You know what? Am I doing that a little bit better? But it's one thing I say, what I'm really clear about is this is not about making people into somebody new. This is about revealing from within who people would have been had they always had the loving support, the best enlightened education, you know, the best spiritual education. You know, it's like if we'd had that, who would we have been?
I love that. Thank you so much. As a very insightful answer, and I've really enjoyed my time here with you on set. Tom Forder-Smith, thank you for joining us.
Oh, mate, absolutely.
Well, this has been such a fantastic show, and it's really been a pleasure for myself and for everyone here on the set. I'd like to thank Dom Burrell and Rich Wilson, the outstanding Sam C, and the fantastically insightful Tom Forder-Smith. Well, tonight we have been the Groovie Bunch. Join us back here for next week when you get your regular host, Gordana Mikic. And for tonight, that's all from us. Bye-bye.